Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Heretic Hammer podcast. I am your host, Marshall, and this is my co-host, Dylan.
Hello, hello.
And Dylan, it is time.
Yes.
The first ish. Actually, it is straight up just the first Friday of the month. We're back on track.
Oh, thank goodness.
You know what time it is.
We've been off the rails for too long. It's time to get things back on track, focused. Marshall?
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt because we were literally just about to start the podcast, but I feel like I hear something. Do you hear something?
A little bit.
I hear it. It's like a rumbling. There's like a rumbling noise. It's almost like it's something big and important and long overdue that's approaching on the horizon. I can hear it coming louder and louder. That's right, folks. We're back with another episode of Mobile Suit Gundam, Dylan's Counterattack.
Whoa. Let's go. Yep.
And this time we're not talking about brand recognition. No.
No collabs.
We're not talking about collabs. We're not talking about painting miniatures. That's for the Warhammer nerds, all right? We're talking about Mobile Suit Gundam.
Unless we're
back
talking about Gundam Assemble.
then it's cool. Just so we're clear.
It's cool again.
Then it's cool.
Wait, before we continue, I want to make a note. It was really funny to me. I saw a video this week about this like gigantic high grade gunpla. And it was so funny because the guy in it referenced to like transfer sheets, you know, like the things where you would take a decal, you like do some water, you kind of brush it down onto the model. Like probably one of the most polarizing things in the 40K community, often looked at as a big negative, as like as a hatred. Like I bought a tool specifically to never use a transfer sheet again in my life. And yet when he was like, oh, and it came with these transfer sheets, like they're like, that's a big plus. I'm like, what do you mean? What? I saw the stickers.
Hell yeah.
I saw the reflective stickers in the high grade kit. I'm like, fuck yeah. That's an improvement. It's
happy for him.
Perspective is such a crazy thing.
Oh yeah. I've used transfer kits like twice in my life and I hated the experience.
Oh yeah, I hate it. It's the worst. But anyway, today is not about that.
No, it's not. Today is actually really exciting because we're getting back to talking about one of the major series. And it's exciting because I thought I could have sworn that noise I was hearing, it was the sound of the title of our show crashing in to meet us, but I feel like I'm still hearing that noise again. It's like this. It's like something is rapidly approaching that we couldn't possibly anticipate. And it's just like, I can hear it. It's getting louder and louder to you. Oh my God. Oh no. It's Quattro Pagina. And he came here to laugh at us.
No.
He came to laugh at us. No. What did we do to deserve this?
What did we do to deserve this?
Is this what we wanted? He thinks this is what we wanted. Oh no, that's right, everyone. At long last, it's time for the sunglassed king himself.
Yes.
To take the main stage.
Let's go.
As we step into Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam.
Okay, it's not Mobile Suit Gundam Zeta.
Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam.
Okay. I actually just like didn't know what the technically correct one was.
I have absolutely said it wrong every so often, but it's one of those things that makes sense when you're looking at like the actual poster.
Sure.
And you'll see that like it is indeed the Z or the Z is before Gundam in the title.
And that makes sense. It's just though I've heard it every way, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that's why I was like,
So that's what
okay.
we're doing today, y'all. We're talking about Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. Before we get into talking about the series proper, I just real quick wanted to give a little bit of production background on this one.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So I am very excited to talk about this because this is in the Universal Century timeline. This series is the pretty much the direct sequel to Mobile Suit Gundam 0079. There are actually a couple of little like mini series / OVAs that have been made and exist kind of technically between that little gap in time between the end of Mobile Suit Gundam and the start of this series. But I haven't decided yet when I'm gonna subject Marshall to those. So
well, I saved
for now,
one of those, which was Stardust Memory, which
seemed
like one of the most connected.
Yes, I was gonna say so. Stardust Memory, which is one of those, and is it's one of those that in hindsight you're like, this feels important enough to maybe have been included in Zeta Gundam proper instead of it being a separate thing later on.
Sure.
But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So it's something that will likely give a little check into in the future.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
now,
it's a bit of a hindsight thing too. So
yes, very much so. But for now, the thing about this series is that it was, like I say, pretty much the next in line for the Mobile Suit Gundam series. Yoshiyuki Tomino, the original creator and director of Mobile Suit Gundam, did return to direct and create this series as well. Yeah. Also, Yoshikazu Yasuhiko, who was the character designer, and Kunio Okawara, who's the mechanical designer, also made their return. And I think it's very reflected in a lot of the character designs as well as the designs of the vehicles and the mobile suits. It feels like a pretty direct move over from the original Mobile Suit Gundam with some improvements and changes overall, especially in terms of animation. Because this series, was released afterwards in the 80s. We see a lot of improvements to Japanese animation that occur kind of going into the 80s, especially compared to the late 70s. And I think it's really reflected in this series where it doesn't look like, extremely different from 0079, but you can notice a lot of small improvements and details that don't seem like they would have been possible before. And another thing is that Tomino is given a lot more room to breathe with this series. You get a full 50 episode run on this one instead of the run being cut short. And that gives the team the opportunity to really kind of pace this out a little bit better, though we'll probably end up talking about the pacing in general.
A little bit. From my end, at least.
Because when I say better, it's in the sense that I don't feel personally that this series feels rushed at any point. But there's definitely some disjointedness that still occurs.
Yeah, but it's different. It's like a different reason, it feels like.
Another thing is that coming off of Mobile Suit Gundam 0079, at the time period that Tomino is creating this series, Zeta Gundam, he is coming off of the success of the first series, needing to kind of recapture that, kind of going through periods of cynicism and thinking a lot about like current 80s culture as well as like commercialization, because there's still the obligation with this series, just like with the first one, of like, you need to make it in such a way that we can use it to sell toys and sell model kits.
Now more than ever,
very important for Sunrise, especially now that the first one was a success. It's like, all right, now we got to repeat on that and build it even bigger and do even more. What's the result is that this series has this noticeable kind of darker tone to it.
Mhm.
Very bleak at times, melancholy. Not as many like lighthearted moments as we experienced in the original Mobile Suit Gundam. And granted, the first series was still very much about war, and there were a lot of
Yeah.
traumatic events that happened in that series. But there were also a lot of like moments of like levity that kind of broke it up. But this one, it is noticeable how it just like a lot of what is happening is very bleak, and especially the ending, which we will of course talk about, is not exactly like a happy ending in the same way that 0079 kind of had.
Other movie.
In what is interesting is that the series that will follow this, Double Zeta, really picks up the lightheartedness, especially in the first half of that series. It almost feels like a compensation for the dourness of Zeta.
Yeah, and we'll kind of have a chat about its relevance though when we get to, I think, the end of the episode.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah,
but yeah, this series releases. It is a success as well. There's a bit of a delay of a few years in terms of getting the series over to the United States, but eventually there was like box sets in that were released by Bandai that had like the English dub and the Japanese audio tracks. What we watched to prepare for this review was the English dub of the show. We will be talking about, especially later on, a trilogy of films that were later released by Tell Me Now that serve as a kind of recap. If you recall, when we did 0079, we did the trilogy of films that were made for that series. But for this one, for reasons that we're going to get into, I encouraged Marshall to watch the entire original series from beginning to end instead of doing the trilogy films, especially for his first viewing. Because if I'm not mistaken, this was your first time seeing Zeta Gundam.
Yes, absolutely.
So that is about everything I had in terms of preamble. I think we can pretty easily launch right into the discussion of Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. Marshall.
I love this poster just because of the knowing the context of the kissing.
Yeah, I know, that's pretty good, right? This poster to me, like immediately, my first thought was Star Wars. The
you know
Star
what?
Wars
Very,
posters.
it hits the vibe.
I believe it is the Empire Strikes Back poster that has Han and Leia kissing on it.
Yeah,
in a similar position to that.
I think so.
I feel like, I don't think it's crazy to say this, but if we're looking at like 0079, Zeta, and Double Zeta, Zeta feels kind of like the Empire Strikes Back of this series overall.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I think this poster is kind of funnily
there might be a number of apt comparisons to that with that trilogy and then this trilogy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
With how it's looked at by fans and by its tone.
Marshall?
Yes.
Heretic Hammer is a podcast name, and I'm a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to know how you feel about Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam.
Okay. So I have 4 pillars that I took a bunch of notes. Like
Love
a lot.
that.
So I didn't know this. I didn't even know that the Notes app on the Pixel had a character limit.
Interesting.
Guess what?
Okay.
I found out.
Wow.
It does.
That is wild.
I would the thing that I did Right. And this is the first time I've done it this way for this whole this whole series and everything was I every time I just had like a thought that I felt was like relevant, especially like if I felt like something was going to be like very core to like some parts of the show, or if I felt like there were like certain weird things, or I just like honestly had just a silly jab or jibe, you know, like for example, I have a note on here that's literally just says Kai Shiden sighting, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's like not every note I have is like, filled with this like this tower of logic.
Yeah, they're not
like,
they're not all like intense prose. It's just like you writing things down. Yeah.
Yes, but they helped me then now when I had to go back and I had to recap my notes and kind of decide like how do I want to surmise my thoughts into what would fit into an episode of a podcast.
Right.
Oh yeah, another great note of mine, just a line that says Dangar. But yes, so oh, hold on. I need to recap something for myself. Give me a moment. I'll talk through it, absolutely. But so I have a seemingly very special note here. And it just says, and it reminds me for this specifically that I need to go to episode 29. So let's see, that's Crisis at Side 2. And then I need to go to the timestamp 7:18. And I now recall what this moment was, which is my moment of laughing at Kamille for looking respectfully. Looking respectfully.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what I forgot.
Honestly, noteworthy. That's noteworthy. Yeah.
That just, it made me laugh. I have a note later that I'll talk about that. It was like a moment that shouldn't make me laugh, but did. But so I have 4 pillars that we're that I designed my thoughts around for this episode. And will we stick to these hard fast or anything? Maybe. But they specifically lie in Kamille Bidan, the main character of the show, or one of, if anything, you could say. The Titans, the main antagonist. My main criticisms, which appear large, but they're honestly there because I just had to like make sure that I didn't forget like how I wanted to word it on my note sheet. They're not actually many. It's more about the way that I want to make sure I'm getting my point across. And then the good, which really could be way longer than it is, but I figured at that point I've also kind of made various things. At this point I will have already said a number of things that I like. So
nice.
As within the other categories. So figured that was why I didn't need to like hyperfixate on it.
How about we do this? I will give a super brief summary of kind of the setting of how this kicks off, the main conflict that's happening, and then we can dig into Kamille, our protagonist there.
Sounds good.
So the thing to note about this, previous series, 0079 takes place in Universal Century 0079, conveniently enough. Zeta takes place in Universal Century 0087, so 7 years after the end of that 1-year war. Marshall before mentioned a group called Titan. And the thing about Titan is that they are this group that is meant to be this like counterinsurgents division to hunt down remaining members of the Principality of Zeon, Zeon terrorists, extremists. The idea is that they're supposed to be hunting them down, but there are reports and things of the Titans becoming like very extreme in their own right in how they're carrying out their missions. Almost to the point of, taking on like fascist techniques and becoming their own power that is potentially very dangerous.
What?
So the result of that is that you have these anti-resistant groups against Titan. The primary one being the Anti-Earth Union Group. Or I pronounce it AIG.
In the dub, they say AUG, though.
AUG. Yeah, I'll usually say AIG or AUG.
I have no idea how they say it in the sub, so.
Yeah, I can't remember, honestly, but it's not the cleanest acronym, if we're being honest.
No, but you know what? Whatever. AUG is what we got.
It gets the job done, but like, yeah,
you just gotta think yourself like you're Joey Wheeler from the American Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, AUG. Yeah, see. Now it
take
feels
down
good.
The Titans with my baby dragon. You gotta be careful. Don't use Monster Reborn against Quattro Vegeta.
Hey, you be careful. I can't time wizard back 4.
Hey, you, why does Katz keep running away in the Gundam and causing mischief?
Okay, let's hold on.
We'll get to it. Let's
move from that. Let's move.
As I was saying, you have the Titans who are causing mischief, and then you have the Anti-Earth Union Group, as well as there is another resistance group called Karaba that is more like specific to Earth. And a lot of what this series covers is what's referred to as the Grips War, which is this like major conflict going on between the AEUG, the Earth Federation, and the Titans themselves.
And Neo Zeta or Neo Zeon. They're in there.
Yes.
For the actual Grips conflict part.
It's Axis Zeon specifically at this point. They'll become Neo Zeon in the sequel. But yeah, the Axis Zeon. So we've already got a conflict kicking off. It's not quite a war yet, but there's already a conflict kicking off. And right away, we are introduced to Kamille, resorting immediately to violence.
We love it.
Getting into trouble.
We love it.
We love main characters who punch cops on sight.
Or kick them in the nuts.
Whether they insult them or not, just engaging in karate against law enforcement. We love that. We're all about it. What are your thoughts on Kamille?
All right, so honestly, like because like a big thought, right, is like, how are they drawing him as a main character? This kid getting into the mobile suit thing, like versus Amuro, the one they had just kind of moved on from, and that we get to see inherently very briefly through this show as an adult more. And first I kind of felt like initially I was very thrown off by Camille's motives for just jumping right to the AU, right? Like he hates the Titans. Then that was like very clear. But I was going into this right with the idea that like, there have to be people that like the Titans or something, or reveal them or whatever. So I originally was having this concept of just like, this idea that maybe they're fitting in like a moral gray area. So like, I didn't want to just kind of give the pass that like, no, they're just bad and everyone knows they're bad. So Camille's joining because everyone knows they're bad. My thought had to be that at this point, there must be plenty of people that think they're good. Whether it's true or not, there just has to be enough people that so the idea of it being common knowledge that the Titans maybe are kind of can like are very strict or very tough, or maybe there's the idea that like, oh, they're kind of mean, sure, but like my idea has to be that though not everybody thinks that they're just straight up evil. So
yeah,
the motives
especially
for just jumping ship so fast felt weird because of living in that mindset.
Especially because they exist under the Earth Federation.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely, it felt to me like the law enforcement joke thing I was, making earlier. It's like, I think that is actually kind of apt that it would be this thing of like, you clearly have corrupt law enforcers and they are being public enough with their actions that a lot of people are being like, hey, I don't like these guys. But then there would also be just as many people that are like, oh no, they work for the Earth Federation. They're good guys. We can trust them. It's
right.
Fine. Or that's just like the kind of thing where they're like, it's not my business.
Right.
I'm removed from that. A lot of civilians in general are going to be just like removed from what they're doing.
Yeah. So granted, I feel like though Kamille gets a really strong level of character growth. But I do kind of feel like at one point, for example, like they tried to almost kind of play very early this, like the like in 0079, when we talked about like Amuro's arrogance, right? Like it was like the idea that like he feels he's the only one that can pilot the Gundam. He feels like this ownership of like, if I don't pilot the Gundam, everybody dies. And like, so like, and some of this stemmed from like when he was fixing Haro and then gets like the shit beat, like literally just the shit beaten out of him, not just the slap, like he's kicked, he's just beaten up. And I was just like, that seems extreme, especially when your whole thing is that there is a sense of over brutality by this police state and you just commit this shit, right? Like that was like, we're just hitting into hypocrisy here. So I was like, that seems a little rough. But like, then we get into plenty of points where it's like, no, okay, he's being a little bit of a prick, but like, but then at the same time, his attachment to what's at that point, the Gundam Mark II, doesn't feel the same way as Amuro's, where like Amuro's was like this sense of like responsibility, where Camille's was maybe if anything a little bit more childlike, where it was like, it's just mine. Like his thought is more like, it's my Gundam. I know how to pilot it and I've been piloting it. Why would I not keep piloting it? He's not necessarily in this like sense of like, no one can step foot in it because blah, blah. It's more just like, no, it's mine. It was my role.
I think a lot of it is kind of tied into his parents' role as well.
Yeah.
Their occupation, I feel like, gives him kind of a sense of like, my family works on this, and that gives me kind of the permission or the status to try to claim the Gundam as my own.
Yeah, but this somewhat does end up leading though into maybe one we could notice kind of like a first series criticism, which is the constant state of people stealing a mobile suit and launching with it, because I guess everybody that works on this dock is a pushover apparently.
Well, I don't know how to tell you this, but not only will this be a series criticism for you, this will be a series criticism for you. Yeah, because this is something that will continue to exist all throughout Gundam.
Correct. But some series do it far less than others.
It's especially strong in these early series, but it is very much like a staple trope of Mobile Suit Gundam is people just like these are like the most coveted, important weapons in the universe.
Yeah.
And they are given just like the shoddiest levels of security. Yeah. And it seems like theoretically anyone could just walk up and be like, hey, can I take this out for 30 minutes? It's really...
Right. It's like, that's the thing. It's like, it's some series. That's the thing. From what we have watched, it's like, series do it better than others. And this one specifically feels the worst in this scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rough.
But it's like, it's the criticism isn't that specifically, but it's the underlyingness of it that in general in Zeta, people seem to really pick and choose, specifically the commanders, pick and choose their times to be strict at like the worst times. Like they're hyper strict when he's coming out because he was fixing a Haro that inevitably brought back really good memories for Bright, but whatever. And then but then like Katz just runs around, and at one time we have Kamille, who does the right thing, turns around, threatens Katz to turn around or he will kill him, and then Fa has to come in and be like, no, that's a shitty thing. You can't do that. You shouldn't be doing that. And it's like, yes, he should. This is like the one person. Kamille became the one person to say the right thing at the right time, and then he's getting in trouble for it. That's so. What the fuck is happening here? I was like, when that happened, I was like, oh my God, girl, you've got to be kidding me. Like, because like Kamille has plenty of times that he's being an impatient or immature like shit, right? Like there's plenty of times, but like he far quicker, I think, than a lot of others gets over the I'm just going to completely abandon the mission because I have a selfish thing to do. Way earlier, like way earlier. And I appreciate him for that because he got better growth because of it. You know, because what I'll get to later is, you know, others didn't get that benefit and therefore their growth was stunted. His wasn't. He got to get this growth, right? He got to the point of being able to do that to Katz because he had growth. You know, and you know, also I did need a note here. You know, we go through this dependence thing. I mentioned how like the whole dependence like idea with the Gundam was for the Gundam Mark II, right?
Yes.
How the hell does the show Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam wait until halfway through the show to have the titular Zeta Gundam?
Zeta Gundam. Yes, I know, right? It's bold.
What?
It's bold. It's bold because they start you off with those Mark IIs, the Black Gundam.
Yeah.
As it's referred to. And depending on who you talk to, I feel like some people are going to be like, yo, that thing is way cooler than the actual Zeta Gundam that gets revealed later on.
Yeah, it's just mainly the coolest thing about the Zeta Gundam is it's a transformer, you know?
Yes, this is definitely the point in Gundam history where we start actually really seeing transforming Gundam. This is very much the beginning, and you can feel it in the series itself where everybody's like, whoa, what do you mean it can transform? That's impossible. But then that becomes much more like widespread in later series.
Yes. Otherwise, I mean, the biggest thing, obviously, that Kamille, I'm just talking about Kamille here. I'm gonna get to his love interests in a minute here.
I fully was planning to. So
it'll be through the. My plan was it's through the Titans.
Interesting. Okay.
But just for Kamille himself as a person and a character, like, I love the way that he goes through things. And when we talk about the ending, this will become more relevant. But like, honestly, there's like, you actually really do, you get a really good glimpse into how his mental state transforms through the series. Like in a time when like, I feel like, or not maybe in a time, but like, I felt like the series could have easily just kind of gone into this realm of like, maybe being a little bit more about war or the horrors of war, more being about like, you know, like just about like various atrocious acts. But Camille's is fun or interesting because you kind of see how very quiet things can transform your mind through the series. And one of the biggest important notes to make with that is the way that Emma in various moments mentions Camille's demeanor being different.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's so subtle because you would just think, oh, he's just growing up. But like, as we get to the ending, it's like, maybe it was something different. And there's thought. And I like that. I like when things are open-ended like that. Mm-hmm. And again, I'll talk about that at the end, but, but like him in general, like, I think he does actually a really good job of being like, yes, the Amuro role in this show, but doing it in a way that I think really helped adapt to a younger and like the time that they were in, where it wasn't gonna they essentially kind of wanted, I think people watching this were gonna probably want a little bit more of a rebellious guy versus like Amuro, where his rebellion was just more in self-interest and altruism. Camille's was a little bit more in the like, no, fuck the system, I got this.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. That made him different too. It gave him a similar role as a function, but his character didn't suffer from that because they gave him a new character to be.
Yeah, definitely. I felt about Kamille when I was like first watching this series way back when, that I definitely felt the thing of like how much of this is just going to be Amuro retreaded.
Mm-hmm.
But he definitely feels the development with Amuro that we see, so much of it is this kind of like emotional instability that builds up over time, where with Kamille, he starts off already seeming so like rash in his actions.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing where I don't know if I'm more fond of where Kamille sort of reaches his emotional maturity in this series compared to Amuro.
Sure.
Like I don't know if I find it to be as fully compelling as Amuro, and I also don't know if that's just because of seeing Amuro go through this type of journey of like becoming a soldier in some aspects against their will. Like if seeing Amuro do it first has led me to be more endeared to him, or if there's something else about it that I feel is better executed than the way it's handled with Kamille.
Yeah, I would say I do. I feel like the way that Amuro becomes more soldier-like is cleaner. Just not from like a literal sense, but even just like, from a storytelling. Like the Kamille backtracks pretty frequently a number of times where it doesn't always feel like it needed to be that way, where like because we're adding new on by that point that we're getting to a lot of these times where Kamille will like emotionally backtrack. We've added new unstable characters like, so
yes, totally.
He didn't need to be. He could have been where Amuro was development wise by this point in the show, and he's not all the time. But I think it's twofold. I think I also feel bad for Kamille because again, every time that he actually does make these growths that like people put on him at the beginning of the series, when he tries to do it to someone else, he gets chastised for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, now you're sending him mixed messages. Like, what do you want from him? So that is a part too that I kind of hold that is like I feel like maybe some of that is not necessarily Armor or Camille's fault as much as it is kind of even the environment around him.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of having a main character that is following a similar path to a main character from Mobile Suit Gundam, Fa Yuri.
Yeah.
Or as I like to call her, Foulbrow 2.0.
But with like extra.
She's got some extra. She's got a little bit extra going on. I'll give her credit for that. But I'll also be honest and say that I think she's... This is a complicated thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think she is one of the weaker elements of this story.
Yes.
Just because of how much she feels like a retread of Frau Bao. Like literally, she's the next door neighbor of Kamille. She's kind of acting as like a caretaker for him, the same way Frau Bao was doing for Ray. There's the whole thing with like the orphans, you know, similar to Frau Bao adopting the orphans the way that she does. Having the romantic feelings for Kamille in general, it just feels like so much of repeating Frau Bao's story over again. And it didn't do enough for me to be like, wow, she really stands out on her own.
I feel similarly, but my reason for it is, but my disappointment in it is because it's none of that is her fault. And that bugs me. Because
yes, I agree.
She goes into a mobile suit. She can pilot it. She's perfectly adequate to pilot it.
She takes pilot training and exactly.
Like, and then Char brings these kids on for whatever freaking reason that we're not given. And they literally ask in the show, why the hell did Lieutenant Quattro bring these children on board? I don't know. He just wanted them. And that's it.
Listen,
that's all we get.
Quattro, Char would never do that. That is a Quattro Bajani thing. All right.
But like, so like, okay, they're fucking Quattro's problem then? Like, I don't know. Like, why does this have to be Fa's problem? And then like, you know, it's like, okay. And then that's the thing is then anytime that she would have then been able to grow, to be able to move past the Fraubo thing, she is forced to go to the children. And it's just honestly like, and then those kids are way worse than the 3 kids on the white base, you know, as they were as kids.
They're not,
you know, obviously we're going to talk about Katz, but from like the position of them as the kids as they were in each show, yeah, these 2 orphans are awful. They're just awful. I don't like them, and they ruin Fa's character. And that's almost a bigger crime in my eyes, is how much that they detract from Fa's character. So I agree with you. I agree absolutely wholeheartedly with where you feel she is in this position. And what hurts about it is that it's like, it's not just because they just wrote her to be this character and that's how she is. They gave her the reins to be away from that character and then just put her back in it. Like my thought, honestly, between that whole exchange was that like the director wanted to do like, we're going to tease them like it's a new Frau and then change it. And she'll be in a Gundam or a mobile suit or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then a big producer with a large cigar came in and were like, we need more Fraubos. Put them with kids. Put the kids in the base and make the neighbor girl go with the guy. Except this time they'll actually end up together in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like,
I agree with everything you said. I agree with all of that. The other thing that, honestly also falls under of like, it's not her fault. This is me as a person watching the show, projecting this on a fictional character.
Yes.
One of the things about Zeta Gundam that I love, that I think is like a major strength of this series in particular in the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, is that this series has several interesting, compelling female characters, most of whom are competent pilots and are important to major plot elements of the story, based off of more than just like being the romantic interest of the main character.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so
Emma is a great example.
There's so many of them, and then Fa, yeah.
Yeah, Fa.
As a result, like, she looks weaker as a character in comparison. But you could easily argue that, like, that's a comparison I don't have to make. You know, I could just take it as like, hey, this is a series with a ton of really awesome, compelling female characters. We don't need to put them, you know, next to each other and rank them. But it's something I definitely felt watching it, is like, yeah, she's not as compelling to me as the others are.
I don't think, though, she is the weakest of them. I think we'll get to it, but I do think that another female character gets that honored distinction.
If you say my favorite character in this series,
I don't know. Does your favorite character have pink hair?
No.
Okay, then you're good.
Okay, we're good. I know who you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're good. Yes. Anything else you want to say about Fa?
No, not about Fa.
Okay.
Were
there more characters you want to talk about specifically, or do you want to continue with your pillars?
No, I kind of want to go through the pillars, because part of that is going to be, I definitely, Lieutenant Quattro is going to be one of the last things I want to talk about. You know,
we're saving the best for last. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's precisely that.
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk about the Titans, because we'll get into it. It'll help with a lot of various character things too. You know, at the very beginning in my notes, I compared joining the Titans to that episode of The Proud Family where they go to the karate dojo, find it too hard, and then they see an ad for the Cool Dojo, where they just like immediately get black belts and get to play video games.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not like a perfect description, but like the way they acted at the beginning, where it was just kind of like some of these guys are pretty green in these suits, but like they get to all act superior because they're in the Titans. And that gave me that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
However, generally they do seem to fit and kind of sit in the total villain column. They don't really get the same grayness that especially the Xeon do. And, you know, especially like a comment actually on on the original, the 0079 episodes, one of them, somebody brought up how, actually, no, it was just our general episode.
Sure.
Which was like, they were like, technically we don't know the reasons behind the first colony drop. Like, they were trying to elucidate the idea that like it may not have been entirely purposeful, you know, but that got spun that way, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I have my doubts, but the idea could be that the first one happened and then now its predecessors think that it's a cool idea, right? So that being said, these guys do not sit in that gray area, really. They're pretty in the red.
They really don't.
Like, I mean, just is out of order, but examples, right? They nuked Jaburo. They used Kamille's mom as bait.
Yeah. That's not a bomb. Thank goodness. Oh, no, just kidding. It's actually Camille's mom inside of a capsule floating in space.
Yeah. And then give secret orders to kill so that the person in the pilot suit doesn't know they're about to shoot a woman.
Yeah. They're like, no, it's totally a bomb. And if the Mark II gets close to it, make sure to blow it up.
Yep. But yeah, and then use chemical weapons attacks in the show once, lore-wise once. So like twice this group has done a chemical weapons attack on a colony.
Mm-hmm.
Dengar. Anyway.
Dengar.
Actually, technically 3 times, right? Because just one was a failure.
Yeah, I believe one of them was a failure.
So it was 3 times. Even worse. So just like, they're just shit. And like, one of those sequences, this is my time to note this. In one of those sequences, when they're like around Jaburo on Earth, and there's like the tree falls on these monkeys, and there's like the baby monkey and then a mom, and the mom's like crushed by the tree, and the baby monkey's really sad. And it's like, it starts as like, it's like you see it as this tender moment. And then like from the way it looks, where it's just like this tender moment, Kamille sees it. He's like, oh no. And then they cut back to the monkeys, and the monkeys sad. And then they just blow up. And it fucking, just because part of it honestly is because of meme culture, like the way, like how jump cuts and like just things like come out of nowhere. I fucking lost it, because I was just like, what do you mean they just explode? Because like obviously the Titans like launch a bomb over, like, you know, they shoot over there with their mobile suit, but like I'm just like because it just cuts, it's just like sad monkey, and then all of a sudden boom, just gone. I was like, it caught me off guard. I just had to bring that up because it made me laugh.
Yeah, no, totally.
It was the thing of like, it shouldn't make me laugh, but it did.
It leans toward like a black humor, like very dark humor.
Yes, absolutely. Which I haven't.
Where I don't think the humor is intentional on their part. Like,
no, it was not.
To be
it is just my warped mind. You see especially, you know what? Yeah. That type of humor hits you more when the amount of 9/11 jokes you've seen at this point in my life.
Yeah, that's not too far off.
Like this is a side aspect, but yeah, it's like, you know, it's inherently fascinating that within the last 5 years, I have probably seen a plane hit those towers more than the 20 years preceding that. Like they used to be treated as like illicit footage.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
But anyway, yeah, like the other thing though about the Titans is I feel like they really showcase how the Federation, in all honesty, just is like totally incompetent. Because like they gassed Colony 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before the show even starts, and yet they're somehow still okay. And in fact, give them more power. But like, I guess they felt like as long as it's not happening on Earth, they are fine. But like, there's a point later that there's enough shit happening. Why did they still end up continue to get power within that spectrum? Right? It was just like, at what point did they not cut them off? Right? Like, it's just like, when does it become too much? Right? Like sending the Psycho Gundam out in the middle of Hong Kong. Like, what? The Federation's just chill about this? Like, I actually, like, I started to crash out here mentally when I saw when that went down. And then like the Titans essentially, like, there wasn't like a whole scene about Federation leaders like threatening to strip Titans of shit or whatever. Like, I mean, I guess you could say maybe their claws were too deep by this point, but it's just insane to me, right? That there wasn't like any form of like, yeah, there's a Titans Gundam just out here and it just leveled half of Hong Kong. You know, and it's just like, we're chill with that. And this is on Earth. Like, what? But again, it's an input. What it showcases, it implies that the Federation have totally lost control, and they're basically powerless at some point during the series.
Yeah, because to have the Federation Council's response to kind of like the uprisings that are happening against the Titans be like, the way we're gonna try to resolve this isn't to actually fix the main issue. It is to silence it. So we're going to give the Titans further military control. And it seems like their thinking is like, if the Titans will, make the problem go away as opposed to fixing it. Because those are two very different things. And, until the Char's speech that he has during the assembly, it seems like they're convinced of like, if we give the Titans enough power, if we give them enough, chain of command, they will wipe out the people that are making a fuss, and eventually everything will just quiet down and go back to what it needs to be. And then eventually they hit a point where they're like, you know what? Actually, we can't really keep this a secret anymore or pretend that it's going to just like sort itself out.
Yeah.
But hey, that's the Federation for you.
Yeah.
And their corruption, unfortunately, is not something that goes away.
It's a long-term problem.
Yep.
But that's always part of it. That's kind of part of the series. I mean,
yes, government corruption will continue to be a major thematic element of this series.
Yeah. But within the Titans, this is a good time to do a character talk, and that is with Jared Mesa.
Yes, now that we've remembered the Titans.
Yes.
Let's remember
because
Jared Mesa.
He was a great character for the Titans, I feel. Look, he wasn't gonna, he was kind of like, right, he was kind of meant to be like the Char to, Kamille's Amuro, right?
Yeah, the Iceman to his Maverick.
Yeah. So he but like the way that he was, right, it wasn't the same level. Like he wasn't as specifically charismatic as even Char was in 0079. But like, so he wasn't going to necessarily like pull anybody to be like, yeah, the Titans are cool. Like he was still generally kind of an ass, but like he's the one that actually at least creates a good level of like human interest. Honestly, even far more than any of the cyber new types, in my opinion. Because while again, he gets a heavy like superiority complex, because like he's literally just like in a box of civilians that they could all just like pound him, and his response is to say civilians wouldn't have a chance in a real fight against the Titans. And it's like, yeah, no shit, buddy. This is like if like an F1 driver was raging at a kid in Mario Kart and told him, this is I'd beat you in a real race though. Like, yeah, no shit. You do this for a fucking living. These are just random people in a box, dumbass. Mm-hmm. This is why people hate you. It was so funny. And that was on Earth, which is what made it funnier. But, it's that said, he did a lot of just like very like interesting points to just like, through, trying to have people that, that he would be friends with, the multiple love interests that he had, he did care about people, but they were the people that he liked. Right. So he was interesting, but he wasn't Char level interesting. Right. That said, I was also hoping for maybe a little bit, maybe that he would get like some type of redemption at the end. But I also kind of like that he died sticking to his guns. So I'm not mad really about him as a character in general.
Do you recall all the way back in that very first episode where I first started talking with you about Gundam as a franchise, that one of the topics that I brought up of like things that we wouldn't possibly have time to discuss and go into was the Kobe Bryarlant.
Yes.
And now here we are. What is it, like a year later?
Yeah.
And we finally get to see the RX 160 Bryarlant in action. And it is giving us full court dunks. Marshall, I love this mobile suit. I love the RX 160 Bryarlant. I think it is so cool.
So why specifically is it the Kobe Bryarlant though?
It is the Kobe Bryarlant. I realized in horror that I hadn't pulled it back up so that I could refer to it for this episode. We may have to come back to it, but it was due to a specific battle where he keeps taking out, like, it's like the number of casualties that he accrues under his belt, essentially.
Oh, this is supposed to be like the Kobe shooting thing.
Yeah.
Hitting 6,000 shots.
Yeah.
He hits 6,000 mobile suits or whatever the number was.
Yeah. It's one of those great things that, like, I can't even recall the origin of, like, you know, what message board or whatever that, like, first referred to it as Kobe Bryarlant.
Sure.
But then I saw it enough times being passed around that I was like, this is the best. It's
You know what though? That as a meme for him because he just kept racking him up. You know what? That's good. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Also, speaking of mobile suits for the Titans, can we talk about, like, again, going into incompetence of the Federation here? Why were the Titans able to essentially use Zaku and they were like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Like, what?
I feel like I feel like everything to do with Jaburo also kind of ends up touching on that, where there's this interesting situation post the 1 year war where it seems like everybody kind of grabs the mobile suits that are left lying around, whether they be Zaku or what have you, and just kind of go, we're going to use these. Like, right. There's a real reduce, reuse, recycle program going on with the Federation of just like, but we're just gonna grab these. And
they made new ones that still were basically Zaku.
Well, that's the thing, because like, yeah, the manufacturers of the mobile suits, especially like the Anaheim Corporation, you know, they still gotta make money. They don't want to be put out of business by the end of the 1 year war. They still gotta. You
think though that like the feds would have been like, all right, mandate, you have to change the head.
Yeah,
something.
We need them to look less evil if possible.
It's like being like, yeah, we're gonna keep making combat helmets, but we're gonna keep the German spike on the helmet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Like that's what I mean, right? Like it's just like maybe make it look. Maybe you would have to tell them, all right, you have to slightly change the design. It doesn't have to be everything, but it's got to be something. You have to halt manufacturing this part, you know, or something like that, because it's too, because they're not just straight up Zaku either. They're different, you know, and so it's like they made a new model that was still a Zaku.
I think you have a very fair point. But I also think the RMS 106 Hyzak is dope as hell. And it should be there on the principle of it's dope as hell. And yes, it does still have spikes on the pauldrons.
and the shield.
And it does still have the shield and the evil singular eye. but sometimes rule of cool just be taken over and logic be
cool
damned.
singular eye. That's fine. It was just, and again, it's mostly just the realm of like, obviously this function's good for a show and stuff like that, but it's more the realm of just like, you know, like the Hobby Hyzak that's in Char's counterattack. They changed the color at least.
No, that's true.
So like that's cool. Let's do that. Make them Fed's colors. Don't keep them green. Don't keep them Xeon green. You know, it's just like it just from a story, from like a living in the world perspective. I'm like, this looks sus as fuck. And the Feds were just like, okay, cool. We don't care. Just kill the interloper or the insurrectionist. All right. Sick. So funny. All right. I do feel like though this would be a good time to get more into some of my criticisms.
Yeah, go for it.
Because granted, me calling the Feds incompetent is not a criticism of the show. It's criticism of them as a government. They actually make for a very functional, incompetent government from the story perspective. So it's not actually a detraction. It's just more that I said, if I was sitting in that world, I'd just be more like, my government is dumb as rocks. But anyway, we started talking about one of the main criticisms I had with Fa, which was going to be about the kids. You know, I was hoping that she was going to get, my hope for Fa when we get into this, right, is that Fa would be like, she'd be a character she would later join. But like, I thought she was going to be like how Emma was, right? From the jump. Like I thought episode 1, Fa was going to be what Emma became partly, which was that like she would come with Kamille, but then it would be a twist and she would also learn to pilot a mobile suit, right? Like that was my hope. That's what I was hoping for. We got that through Emma. Emma, great character, by the way.
Rules.
Yeah, just awesome. But you know, and then it would be them, but from going back to my original thing, then it would be them about having to grow in this war and how it's not the glory that Kamille thought it would be. And then like they would maybe build a relationship in that realm where like, you know, maybe Fa doesn't see it or maybe like she privately goes through the horror and then that's like, it becomes a bonding moment or something or blah, blah, blah. You know, that's like what I was hoping for, you know, and then like when they would add the cyber new type stuff, that would like just create this like mix of emotion, right? That was kind of my thought or how I would have liked it to go, right? Instead, we got what we talked about already, right? But we did get some of that with the cyber new types. And so this is actually going to be some positivity in the criticism.
Yes. Cyber new types. Yes.
Yes. So, because now is that time. So it's very interesting to me. So from the Kamille and his story with the cyber new types, it kind of got entirely enwrapped on this immaturity leading to tragedy kind of thing. And this is actually somewhat true between both cyber new types and the one normal new type in Katz. But I'll get to that part in a second here. So the way the story and everything enveloped with 4 is very interesting because it's just like we meet 4. She is basically this like robot almost. And then she gets out of the mobile suit and she's kind of like a just very emotional teenager. But the emotionalness seems to end up being a whole different side effect. You know, and I had a note in here in my notes about like how fast their emotions, like they just like immediately fall in love and then immediately hate him, you know, and it's like, I thought that was funny, but that actually became
very
the thing I learned was that it's like But the thing I learned, or that we kind of learn with that, is that it's not just because they're teenagers, but it's because cyber new types are just this emotionally unstable.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears that in general, new types as a whole have some of this as well, but it just doesn't seem to be as severe. But part of that is probably just because of the way that they keep fucking these Titans, keep fucking with the cyber new type memories.
Yeah, because you also see it with Rosamia Badam.
Exactly. Like
is a major victim of that.
The one thing I never got like an answer on or anything was like, so was this picture that she had of her and Kamille like a Photoshop or something? Or was it just like they found a girl that happened to have been like previously around Kamille at one point in his life?
I actually can't remember if that was the case, if it was just like a falsified photo.
Nothing.
I think it was.
I don't know. Nothing in the show said it. They just changed her memories later to think that, I forgot his name, but the other guy was her brother instead.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had to like go back and forth, and then her brain broke essentially because of that shit. Which again only further entrenches the whole Titans are pieces of shit standpoint. They're in the morally red category. But going back to 4, she is one of the titular things though that pushes Camille's maturity. And what's funny about, we laughed earlier about it's so funny with this picture of 4 and Kamille on the cover, because that's her dying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, great. What I did find interesting from a clip I saw though, was the first time that Kamille believes that 4 dies, she like actually gets like shot through the cheek, which is like a really interesting thing in like the movies. That was
we'll
weird.
Get to that.
But we just like see her the first time, right? But in the show, we just kind of see her. There's 2 times that Kamille thinks this woman dies. One he knows, but the first time he thinks she dies, because she like is helping him escape, and then an explosion happens, and he just can't see her. But we just kind of get this like presumption of death. And then obviously she comes up again later. Her memories have been fucked with more, but she does end up remembering him at some point. But they seem to have instilled this like control, like this like remote control ability to like essentially sleeper agent her to get onto the Psycho Gundam. And it's so fascinating as just like a way that they thought that they could not only create a new type, that they could create a new type, but then control them. It kind of reminded me of some of the things that they were trying to maybe get some ideas across in Seed.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, they overall though, with the cyber new type specifically, then when you got to Rosamia and then even Sarah, their instability always felt just so strange, and it was just like, they were a fascinating premise, and it's that realm again of like, this goes into the criticism now. I wish we got to focus on that better by not having to worry about some damn kids, like, a teenager thinking that he's going to defy some shit. I'll get to that in a minute, and potentially kill millions of people because of it. Or, or just like you're just a naughty boy. Like, a great example of what could have worked really well was how Amuro kind of warns Kamille, like, don't fall in love with 4, because if she dies, it will ruin you.
Yeah,
because of his experience with Lala.
Yep.
And it's such a great, because then it also becomes a great thing because it doesn't, right? Kamille doesn't fall into that trap. He's able to, have this happen to him, but he's able to move forward. He still gets stuck with it, And I didn't really like, I found it weird later that when the second time Rosamia comes back, that like he keeps, even after seeing that it's Rosamia, thinking that it's 4. It was just weird. I didn't really get it. I just felt like it was like, you could just have him care about Rosamia, right? Even if it's like platonic or whatever. Like, I don't know. He could just care about Rosamia. Like, he could just want what's best for her. It doesn't have to be like, he doesn't have to confuse her with 4, you know? Like, it felt weird.
Gotcha.
But like the cyber new types, I think added such an interesting thing compared to how we saw them in with what's his name in Counterattack.
Oh, Char's Counterattack, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what was his name? The guy who piloted the Jagdoga.
Oh, geez.
But like he was a very stable cyber new type.
Yes.
And that's going to be a thing I'm going to get into later that I'm annoyed about. But again, it becomes a weird fill in. But
I personally found it really interesting that there's the whole thing with Kamille piloting the Zeta Gundam where he's like absorbing in the spirits of the people that have like fallen around him.
Yeah.
And I do think it's very interesting having the cyber new types be included in those spirits.
Yeah.
Especially like when he's fighting Shiroko in kind of like the last battles there, where it's like Emma's there, Rosami is there, Sarah's there, 4 is there. And I found myself thinking about like, oh yeah, it's that you know, it doesn't matter that they were cyber new types, that they still have a spirit that would be able to be absorbed by Kamille. I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it was nice. No, overall, I actually really liked that part of the ending, and I liked kind of how they pushed in, despite all this tragedy happening, that they were still able to kind of, you know, because some of the new type stuff is like the idea of like accessing essentially this like spiritual, this like ethereal plane, you know. And we I liked kind of seeing this manifestation of it. But speaking of one of those people that was whose spirits was like went into Kamille here, Katz sucks.
If you didn't say it, I was going to respond to my own layup and be like, you know who also appeared as a spirit?
Yeah.
Katz. You know who's also not as compelling as any of those other characters I mentioned? Katz. Man, it is interesting to have one of the orphans from Mobile Suit Gundam 0079 grow up and be like, now I want to be part of the war effort. The interesting part ends there. Because the whole rest of his character, it is so clear from second one what Tomino's doing with them, where it's like they are supposed to be sort of a metaphor for like the repercussions of like the influence that Amuro has had, whether it's good or bad. You know, people continuing to be inspired to join the war effort, kids that are raised in war that then don't, you know, consider other options besides being in war and idolize it. Exactly. But it is so, I mean, it's so spelled out the whole way, and oh God.
But like that would have worked better if his zealotry or like if his drive was to be a good soldier. But his drive isn't to be a good soldier. His drive is to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah.
And that is bad.
And he's getting treated with like a reverence by a lot of the characters that I feel is unearned.
Unearned and unjustified.
Unless they also had watched Mobile Suit Gundam as a kid and been like, yeah, Katz, he's important because he was in Mobile Suit Gundam, this series that was like important to me.
Like literally because he's like a dumbass who like thought he could trust an enemy because, you know, she's a pretty girl. bro almost like lets a fucking moon like a colony drop on the fucking moon, like, and kill again hundreds of thousands of people. And it's just
Crazy.
like, and he's just like, what? I was in the right. Like, no, you're fucking not. Like, and he should have been again. And then like, this is a criticism then on Bright, because Bright should have just sent his ass home. Like, if I'm commanding that ship and I know that he let her go and that it caused this, and that we only got it to shift over enough just because of everyone else, he's going home. I'm putting him on I'll put him on a fucking escape pod. He doesn't even get a shuttle. He's just gonna be in a pod that goes to the earth and hope you live. Like, I'll trade that one for the potential million that we're gonna die there. You know, it's like, it's insanity to me. And then it's just like, I get the idea that he really wanted to believe that there was good in Sarah, and that can be a great plot point. It can be. But it was constantly shown that Sarah is never going to change, and he keeps falling for the same trap. Like, literally, he falls for the same trap twice. And that's why, again, like, when Kamille's going to threaten Katz is the one time that he should have gotten what's coming to him, and then Fa ruined it, because they, for some reason, had to keep Fa being this, like, maternal protector. And I'm like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
This is dumb.
Yeah.
And then, then guess what? He sticks around in a gunless pod for no reason and gets blown up. And when that happened, I felt nothing. I wasn't even happy. I just felt nothing.
It feels weirdly prolonged because,
like, it should have happened a while ago.
He gets shot at, and then they're doing the whole thing where he's in the cockpit and like his visor's been smashed, and it's like he's clearly gonna die, but it's still like taking a bit. And then he does the whole thing with Sarah. He's like the vision, and then there's still a little bit where he's just kind of like cruising through space, and then eventually smashes into the asteroid or the debris that's in space there, and that's when he finally blows up. And like,
yeah,
oh my god, and the whole thing that like Emma says later to Rakoa, where she's like, you don't tell me you didn't feel it when Katz died. We all felt it, and we cried tears from our hearts, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. You can't convince me that y'all were crying tears from your hearts over Katz. Come on now.
Yeah, for real. I mean, this girl barely, I don't know, even Brecco barely knew the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she met him once. So yeah, that's that one. Maybe I'll bring this up with Char. So I'll do this one first. I didn't like Rekua's betrayal.
Okay. So now, so we're on Rekua.
So I need you to tell me now, what was the translation difference about Emma's final strike to Rekua?
Okay. It's not about the strike specifically. Well, it kind of is. Okay. There's a lot in this. So, first of all, I just want to say, Rekua is another character that I really like in this series. I think she's great. I think one of the things that is great about her is that she defies the trope of getting to a point where she has to like really justify her actions and then eventually goes back over. There's no point in this. You expect it, where there's gonna be a point where she goes back over to the Aug, to the side of the good guys, and is like, gonna work with them. That doesn't happen. And she is so adamant about like, I am taking the path I'm taking that I am choosing. And it's important that I am the one that chooses to do it like this.
Sure.
She is somebody who goes through a lot of hardship and trauma. And has to like really tangle a lot with her own personal morals. And in that final confrontation that she has with Emma, they have a really big fight. And Emma is taking stabs at her womanhood. She is directly calling her out of like, why are you continuing to fight on their side? Why are you doing this? This isn't, as a woman, why would you do this? And she is extremely clear where she talks about, because Emma says, and this is part of the translation thing, it's like Emma says that like it doesn't follow a woman's logic. And she says, this is why I fight. It is because of a woman that I've chosen the side I've chosen, and it's why I fight. It's why I do what I do. And there's this brilliant scene where they've both like stabbed each other. They're like locked in, and the colors like invert. And like just animation wise, like it looks amazing. And Rakoa takes the moment to say like, everyone's life is their own, but also in regards to men in comparison to women is like all men care about is fighting their battles. All they care about is their wars, and all men think of women as tools. And furthermore, all men do is that they take advantage of women.
Yeah.
And it's just this really strong, empathic message about like,
sure,
we are skilled pilots, and a lot of the women in this series are recognized as being like skilled pilots. But how far off is that from like a lot of these men that exist in the fight? How many of them are thinking of them as someone outside of being good at at being pilots, or being good at using the Gundam, being good at their craft? Like, she's really striking to a major thing here where a lot of the women that are present aren't really being given, I think she feels that there is a freedom that isn't actually present for these women that they think they have. And they are not being fully recognized as people so much as they are being recognized as tools of the war effort. And the last portion where she specifically talks about them taking advantage of them, men taking advantage of women, I should say. There's a weird thing that happens where they break away, her mobile suit explodes, and Emma says, like, take advantage of us, Rakoa, and she says it in a really weird way. And part of what's happening there is that, and this is something that I haven't seen like officially confirmed. It's one of those things that I've gathered from like watching the original Japanese and then like conversations about it online, where in the English dub, they are using the phrase take advantage. In Japanese, the original phrasing they're using is more akin to they humiliate us, or they make us humiliated. And my understanding, this could be 100% wrong, but my understanding from what I've researched is that in Japan, the usage of the phrase being humiliated, specifically in regards to women, is not literally being humiliated. It is more akin to being assaulted or abused or raped.
Yes.
And when you go back and you rewatch the series, I think there are moments that really there's a literal moment where she gets assaulted by a soldier that like gropes her, but there are other things that kind of I think are laying the groundwork for the idea of like she is somebody that has not only dealt with combat related trauma and going on like really dangerous missions, who has served under men for a large portion of her life and has been used by them in war effort, but as somebody who has also unfortunately been literally abused or assaulted by them. And it has taken this very severe mental toll on her, and has made it difficult for her to see her position in this whole conflict as anything other than I am being used at all times. Even when it's not in a like romantic or sexual context, I am always being used. And she takes such like offense to that phrasing that Emma uses of like woman's logic, to be like, this is me being logical. I am stepping out of this like game that men decide to play where they use us as pawns all the time. And I'm fully making this my choice. I'm not on the side of this conflict because I 100% believe in what the Titans believe in. I'm doing this for my own moral standing and what I believe in.
Which, that's kind of the part that I maybe don't disagree with the logic, but I disagree with her logic in that realm, because she decided to do that. And this is actually the reason why I dislike her betrayal, is because the people that had abused her, the people that the dude, like the soldier who did grope her, she went to a person, a commander that was only manipulative, that was only, would have humiliated somebody, that like is definitely a guy who would do that, like, and so it's like, okay, it's your choice, but you chose to, but you're saying then you thus chose to fight for those who would do the same to those like you. Like it's that realm of like, you've chose to fight against your own idea, right? Because she went to a guy that was never going to give her that benefit, her that right, and never gave anybody other woman that right. Everybody still had to do what he said. And he was constantly manipulative between her and Sarah. And she instead, when she wanted choice, gave it up. And then ended up having to plant chemical weapons without option. She had to, it wasn't like Emma. It wasn't like Emma's betrayal in the slightest. Emma's betrayal was for her own decision. It was because she saw an injustice and made her own choice not to follow it, right? Rekko inevitably saw all of those injustices, and just for some reason something clicked in her brain, and she's just like, no, I'm going to go over there. I never felt like she had a justifiable reason to move to the Titans. If she had anything, it would have, if she was going to betray them to go anywhere, it would have been Axis.
Mm-hmm.
There's the only one to me that would have made sense to make that point. If to me, that's the only one that would make sense. Her joining the Titans, it completely betrays everything that she was saying that she was fighting for, and instead just contradicts it. And I get that maybe that was their point, but I don't think it's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made her character so frustrating, was that it's like, you had the chance to do all of this in a different way, but instead you chose to do it in a way that completely betrays every ideal that you're supposedly spouting for. Like, this humiliation didn't happen on, I was almost called it the white base. It's not the white base in this show.
You're talking about the Argama.
Argama, yes. It didn't happen on the Argama, Char generally seemed pretty caring about her.
Well, not caring,
not a total
but
way,
also
but
cold a lot of times as well.
Yes, but that's, he's dealing with the whole Lala thing still. So that never goes away. as we know in Char's counterattack.
I think a lot of it too is that it gets into Shiroko's overall role in the story.
Yeah, where he's very much this like, he's like this very strong manipulative new type.
Yes, very especially towards women. Like he shows such manipulative tendencies towards women, including as soon as like
Rekuo fights him.
Rekuo is like, well, as soon as she's like assigned to work with him.
Oh yeah, because she has to spy, which she's like pretending to be someone and meets him. That's right.
He immediately is like playing on her previous experiences and fears and like the insecurities that she's experiencing, to just sort of start manipulating her against them.
I feel like if we came to this point where what I think maybe would have helped, made her feel more interesting, and if anything, like would have let the sadness feel more applicable, was if, because when she initially goes over, it's kind of this almost like she's hypnotized almost, right? And so if it started that way, and then those things that she kind of refers to, right? If we got the inkling that it was kind of happening, not obviously a direct way, but if it was more alluded to the fact that like this is happening, like this, Shirako is doing something, or someone in the Titans is doing something, and that maybe she regrets the decision, but now she feels trapped. So she's trying to justify to herself that she's doing this from her own choice, but then upon dying comes to this thing of like, men humiliate us, stuff like that. I feel like I would have felt that tragedy way more, but instead she just kind of always is saying, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for me. And like, and then she comes to that, and it's like, well, you gave up the people that weren't doing that to you. And then you went to the people that did do it to you. So like, I don't know. And you knew they would do it to you. So like, it's weird, and I don't understand it. And like, there maybe needed to be something more to give that reason why either she felt like it would either have happened on the Argama or within the Aeug, that she was also getting this disrespect in the Aeug, just something, but I just didn't feel like it was there.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I found the kind of the like mental tug of war that she experiences at like several points. I personally found that much more compelling, and I thought that there was a lot there in terms of her sort of shielding herself from what she's actually doing and trying to put it behind the idea of like, I am making my own decisions in regards to this.
Yeah. But it's just that realm of like, well, you didn't have to make you were already independent. They basically always let you do whatever the fuck you wanted. Like, I don't understand. That was why it was so weird. It was like, I'm more independent. You were the most independent. You're actually less independent now. You've got this ugly ass dude with goggles beating you up because he's telling you to gas a colony. Like, you have less independence now. So that's why I just didn't feel it. Okay, but we're getting there. So we need to get. I need to talk about Char. I need to talk about Quattro Pagina.
Yes. Let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Quattro Pagina.
Like, oh my God, I absolutely see why everybody, like, this is the, like, I was always like, when we watched the original series, I was like, I could see why people think Char's charming. And then we watched Counterattack, and I was like, I don't know. I don't really see why people would think they could attach to Char. And then I watched this show, and I'm like, fucking Char is the best. I'm like, I love him. He's the best.
This is in my personal opinion. I feel like a lot of people kind of share this. Is like, this is peak Char.
This is peak. This is
peak Char Aznavour right here. This whole series. Though I love him also as I love him in general, but I love him as a representation of the difference between late 70s Gundam and then early 80s Gundam.
Sure.
Where you just look at his change in outfit and how he accessorizes himself now.
Yeah.
I feel like he is the strongest example of them being like, what is cool in the 80s now?
Right. Yeah.
He's going to wear that.
Sleeveless jacket.
Sleeveless, the big collar, the
sunglasses,
the V coming down on the chest, and the sunglasses, the tousled hair that's a little longer.
Yeah. I mean, Kamille had that too, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, Camille's is interesting because it kind of curls up at the back.
True.
And kind of takes more.
This is a little more wild. Char's is a little more wild.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then he's just got such a charm, you know, like
he does.
I mean, it's just like, and it's just astounding that in show how his growth goes to, you know, living his life as Lieutenant Quattro Bagina and essentially hiding himself as Char to then accepting Char, to accepting himself as, you know, as a heir to Daikun, you know, like
also to, you know, take on this new personality, this new identity. But I think there's something that's like embedded in his DNA that's like, I'm going to refer to myself as a completely different name, take on this whole new identity, but I still have to pilot a red Gundam. I can't not pilot a red Gundam. So he shows up and immediately is in the Rick DS, which is a red mobile suit.
Yeah. Haman kind of calls him out on being like, oh, you tried to be all different, but in the end, you're the same guy.
You can't stop being the Red Comet if you try. You truly cannot.
Man, I don't even have anything to necessarily talk about Haman Khan, but like
Haman Khan
the
is
whole
there.
Axis thing is so interesting.
Yes.
But that more, I think, comes to a head for Double Zeta. But yeah, so his growth though was just so good. And you know, like he just again, like it's like the way he brings Emma over, right? He shows them. He's just like, here's what the Titans do. They don't tell you this when you sign up, but here's what they do. And here's your evidence, because here's a canister, here's a Titans like gas shit. Like like this is evidence. This is what it is. And she had already kind of decided by that point, right? Like, so, because she's Camille's mom, right?
Yeah.
And this was just like the nail in the coffin, just like, the people I thought were good are not. And he doesn't do it by like manipulating. He's just showing her with the facts, right? But he's not intimidating people to do this, right? He's not being like, here's a lie that hides part of the truth. Like, these people, insurrectionist or not, did not deserve to be gas bombed, and now they're dead. And he just shows that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't hide from truths, and that's so good. And what it does do is it's going to round back to one of my the criticisms I skipped over, which is that this show makes me hate Char's counterattack.
Marshall, it is so funny to hear you say that, because this show makes a lot of people not like Char's counterattack.
Because it's just like,
the thing that is frustrating is to see him in this show and like where we leave off with him. And then you get to Char's counterattack and it's like bewildering of like, how did we end up here?
Because like his whole thing is that he wants to protect, he wants everybody off the earth. Yes, he wants to just vacate the planet, but he wants to protect it. He's so against the nuclear bomb because of what the damage it would do. And he grants that, like, yes, war will do some damage, but if we could minimize it, he even says, like, if we can just minimize it so that then when we're all in space, it'll heal itself.
His
And then he's like,
goal.
And then they go to Char's counterattack. It's like, here's a comet.
His goal to stop the active violence against new types, the negative perception against new types, and against those that live in space is greater than any hatred or resentment that he has for Earth as a whole.
Yes.
And that feels like it gets swapped when we get to Char's counterattack, where it really just becomes like, no, but I really hate the Earth, though.
Yeah. Because they talk very often in this show that people's souls are weighed down by gravity.
Char's counterattack. Yep.
And Char is constantly scared that Amuro is also getting his soul weighed down. And in a way, maybe he was. Like, and even Amuro admits to that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, it's just like, why go through all this effort to protect the Earth and then spend a whole movie trying to destroy the planet? Like, bro, like you had everybody in your hands, dude. Like, because it was two things, right? Because I know he goes into hiding for Double Zeta. He's not in Double Zeta because they told Tomino, hey, you're getting the movie. And he's like, okay, I'm going to save Char for the movie.
I was going to bring this up too. So yeah, the original idea for Tomino was that he was going to have some of like what we see in Char's counterattack was originally going to happen for Double Zeta. And then they were like, we're going to let you do, a movie specifically for Char. But he's also on record as saying like he's forgotten a lot of the other stuff he would have done with Char in Double Zeta. So we're probably never going to know the full extent of like what it would have been.
Sure. Because like there needed to be an event that like triggered this shift, this mindset,
Mm-hmm.
because like we don't know what it is. And so now we're just in this world where for some reason Char has done a complete 180. But regardless,
but in this show, he rocks and he rolls.
He rocks and
he tells
so
Amuro not to let himself become a bird in a cage. And also, I came here to laugh at you. So this is I won't spend 20 minutes on this because we've already been recording for quite a while. I just want to really put this out there. I obviously put the meme in at the beginning of the episode. It's one of the biggest memes to come out of Mobile Suit Gundam in general is Char saying to Amuro, why'd you come down here, from space? Why did you come to Earth? I came here to laugh at you. I think the thing that we don't talk about enough is the immediate line following that, where Char says, "That's what you expect me to say, right?"
Yep.
Like that's what you want me to say.
That, yeah. I was gonna talk about that.
Isn't that like that's our dynamic, or at least like that's what you think of me as a person?
Yeah. And it's like it's almost like it's actually, that's the thing, right? It's kind of almost this like he's kind of almost like, I don't want to say sad or regretful, but like he's looking at Amuro and saying that and kind of going, like he's kind of like coming to Amuro to be like, I want us to be like I want us to be friends.
I think it's him,
kind of like I realize as an adult now kind of what we did for each other for growth and that we truly are on the same side.
Yeah.
I just think maybe don't think of me that way.
I think it's also him kind of teasing Amuro and being like, listen, I know you have your perception of what you think of me based on our battles that we had before, but you don't like know me. You don't fully know me as a person. You have your expectations of like what you think I am, the caricature of me, but you don't fully understand my ideals and ideologies. And also on a deeper level, you will never have the connection that I had with Lala was much deeper than the connection you two had. I don't care about whatever mind meld you two had together, where it was like in another life we would have been soulmates. No. What the connection we had was much deeper. I can't even go. I'm afraid to go back into space now because I fear that being in space will put me in close proximity to having to come to terms with that whole situation. So you think you know me, you don't really know me. I feel like is what he's saying with that.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair too. Good point to make.
Okay. We have covered a lot, and simultaneously there's a ton that we haven't covered.
Yes.
I want to real quick, I don't think there's going to be like a real good time. So because we were just talking about that moment that occurs in episode 15, I want to give episode 15 in general a shout out because that's Katz's Sortie is the name of that episode. That is also the introduction of one of my favorite characters in this series. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't remember. No.
This is the episode where we are introduced to the Queen, Belterchica Irma, who pilots the biplane.
Oh yes.
And
she is fascinating.
She is so interesting and weird and awesome. And guess what? You might see more of her in the future. But it is so sick to me that she is like in a biplane in space and takes on it takes 3 mobile suits to rein in her biplane because of how good of a pilot she is. It rules. I love that. I'm all about it.
They're still in the stratosphere. They're on Earth.
Yeah, they're technically on Earth. Yeah, they're not actually out in space. Yes.
But still, even then.
But yeah.
And then she just rolls herself into she's just like, I'm getting into this fucking turret. I'm getting shit done.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of my way. Yeah, she's awesome. And then the amount of shit she does to make sure Char gets on TV,
yeah, she's the one that's filming the battle that's going on outside. Yeah.
Right. But she's just is such she's a go-getter.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I do want to quickly then get to, so obviously we've alluded to the ending has a mixed bag. So I also kind of feel mixed then on the 2 endings that exist for Zeta.
Okay. So let's do this. Let's get into Mobile Suit Gundam Zeta, A New Translation. This was a trilogy of films that were released later by Tomino. Something I want to point out in regards to these films is that with the original 079, I was very positive about let's do, for your first introduction into Gundam, let's do the trilogy films. I think they encapsulate enough about the characters and about the story to not feel like you're missing anything major. What's interesting about A New Translation is that part of Tomino's thought process in creating them was that he wanted to revise a lot of the ending to make it more of an optimistic thing.
Yes.
At the time of, like I said at the beginning, at the time that he was making Zeta, he had a much bleaker outlook about life that clearly
he
was
was going
reflected in
through a
his
lot
work.
of depression.
And at the time that he made the trilogy films, he was a lot more optimistic. And so he wanted them to kind of reflect that. And he felt that the tone that Zeta Gundam ends on was a little too much, especially for how bleak the rest of the series is as well.
Yeah.
So, one of the major things is that he changes the ending entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Or mainly entirely. You have this final conflict that is going on. And the end result of it, I'm trying to pull up my my characters here. But Kamille is in this final battle with Shiroko, Captain of Shiroko, and he uses his new type ability to just totally ram into and kill Shiroko. And Shiroko, with his dying breath, essentially curses Kamille. And there's this really interesting thing that happens where it's not made like abundantly clear exactly what's happening, but he kind of conducts this like psychic mind attack on Kamille as his like last act. And the result of it is that it sort of breaks Camille's brain.
Yes.
And like reduces him to this like almost like childlike state where he doesn't really understand anything that's going on, or like the severity of the situation or what's happening at all. And Fa is able to go in and rescue him, but outside of that, I mean, the series ends like almost immediately after that.
Yep.
They bring him and Emma, they bring in, and then immediately you get the like Finn ending message and credits, and that's it. So with the new translation, he actually made it so that that mind attack doesn't really work the same way, and Camille is able to repel it, and it is like this kind of happier ending where Fa and Camille are actually able to fully reunite at the end of the third film. And there is also a lot of like additional scenes that are added at the very end to like show various like families and other people throughout. On like Earth.
We get a Salem ass sighting. Let's go.
Yeah, and which I love that. I'm all about that 24 hours a day. But it feels like it's doing kind of that like Return of the Jedi thing of like, let's show all the different people on all the different planets and be like, they're okay, they're celebrating, everything's okay.
Especially the like later ones where they added like Naboo.
Yeah, everything's fine, everybody, like everything's okay. Whereas that original ending has very much a thing of like UAG technically won. They won. But it has that Empire Strikes Back feel of like this was kind of a Pyrrhic victory that had like a very heavy cost.
Correct.
And then the film kind of changes that. And one of the other major things is like outside of tone, which you can absolutely argue about whether or not you prefer having that more optimistic tone be the end or not. But the other major thing is like Double Zeta is very contingent on the original ending of the show.
Yeah.
So much of that series, I feel it can almost be, Bright doesn't need to reach out to a bunch of new potential pilots without getting too into detail. If he still has Kamille to rely on. You don't have like a lot of things that feels like are a direct result of Kamille being in the state that he's in. And in fact, like a lot of what happens, like a lot of Camille's, especially early on, Camille's state in the start of Double Zeta is in this like almost catatonic state where he's not able to be a pilot.
The subplot is him getting through it.
If you go from the end of the film to the start of Double Zeta, you're like, what happened? Because he goes from being like totally fine to suddenly being like bedridden and like mentally unwell. And it just doesn't add up at all.
Yes. So I have mixed feelings about these because I actually think I like a world, I kind of like I dislike and like things about both. So I feel like I do actually really find it an innate interest into Kamille kind of falling into a madness or like a state and, just kind of ending there. Because there's so many, as I mentioned, there's so many signs that he's like slowly losing a little bit of grip. Like there's a point where he's trying to let Emma know something and he lifts his mask. Because he's like with that point where he thinks he hears 4 in space, which is Rosamia. But So in order to talk to Emma, he lifts the visor in space of his helmet.
Yes.
Like, he is very clearly through this series kind of slowly losing it. What I don't like about this ending is that it's specifically being Shirako's curse. I don't like that. I don't want that. I don't want a psychic attack. I want after having to just watch a bunch of these people that he cares about die, to, you know, have them join in with his soul so that they could do this attack, that by having them all join in and by going through everything, that this final thing, this act finally breaks him. It breaks his, and then he's in the state he's in. I want it for that. I don't want Shirako to have any reason that he is part of it. I don't want him to have nothing to do with it.
I have seen online from a couple of people speculation about like first of all, we might have different readings on him opening his visor, because when he does that, it's at a time when Emma is like panicking. And I feel like it's an intentional move on his part to snap her out of that and make her be like, whoa, Kamille, what are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Stop that. Close your visor, to like break her out of the panic that she was in.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The other thing that I've seen mentioned around, and I think is interesting, is that people have speculated about like, look, he opens the visor in space. It's immediately going to have effects on him. It reminds some people of Amuro's dad, who was exposed to like being out in space without protection. And similarly, it took time, but like went through like a mental degradation as a result. So there's a question of like how much of it is just Shiroko, casting psychic on Kamille.
Yeah.
And how much of it is a combination of that, the strain coming from, using his new type abilities and the spirits combined with him, as well as willingly exposing himself to space like that in that moment.
It's just the way it's framed, though. It makes it feel very much like Shirako's curse, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of labeled these as like the psychosis ending and the catharsis ending, because the thing that I saw when I briefly looked over the ending of A New Translation was he's kind of having this like, he's also kind of having this epiphany with Fa when they're embracing that, like, he knows what he wants. And what it would at least tell me is that it kind of would potentially be his realm, that he's like that realm of like, he's going to be done after this, right? Like that he's like, I know what I want. This is, and like the idea, it's like, I know what I want. It's you. And whether or not you like that concept is a different story, but just like, that's kind of was the vibe I was getting. So it at least stand that like Bright doesn't have Kamille to go to at the beginning of Double Zeta because Kamille didn't originally gave it up. That would be my thought. But then obviously then you get into psychosis. So it kind of feels like a little bit that there's maybe this idea that a new or that Double Zeta isn't as relevant because it doesn't even have Minerva. It's just Haman.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't necessarily, like, the question is, how important is Double Zeta to go from Zeta to Unicorn?
I would recommend, if we can make it happen, that we do Double Zeta before Unicorn.
I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about in general. How important is the UC connectivity of Double Zeta to get from Zeta to Unicorn?
I would not consider it super important personally.
Or even not even Unicorn, but even Char's counterattack, and then maybe also Unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the vibe I've gotten too. I'm not against watching Double Zeta, but it's my point more that like, it does kind of feel like somebody could decide they wanted get into Gundam, and they just decide, look, I just want to stick with the new translation, and then I don't need to watch Double Zeta. I'll watch Char's counterattack, have the same reaction that most people do with Char's counterattack and Char, and then I'll go to I'll go to Unicorn. Or I think is Double O. I forget. Is Double O its own timeline? Or is that UC? Okay.
Double O is well. I can literally pull up the timeline here. I believe Double O. Yeah, it should be under Anno Domini. Instead of Universal Century.
So then go to Unicorn, right? And which is as far as I remember of that being the timeline order. Yes. So like, and that's the thing. It's like technically that person can do that. There is a route where you could decide to skip Double Zeta. Whether or not you should, different question entirely. But it is technically possible to follow the storyline and do that. Was the vibe I was getting.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I was kind of saying, I think both can be fine. It just is a matter, I think, at this point, as to what you choose. In our reality, we're going to live in a world where we have the show ending be our canon ending, probably, just because we are going to, yes, like you mentioned, we are going to watch Double Zeta. We're going to talk about it. And therefore, it is going to require us to have the Psychosis ending be canon. Because otherwise, why the hell is Amuro basically comatose, unspeaking?
Kamille,
I said Amuro, didn't I? Kamille. Yep. But why is he like that, right? So we need the Psychosis ending to be canon. I will live in the belief that it is due to just a wear down rather than Shirako. I refuse to give that man the reason for this psychosis.
I also, to me, it feels more reasonable. I mean, that ending is just so abrupt anyways. It's a 50 episode series, and then to have the ending be so abrupt is a little like, whoa. Yeah. But I feel like it really just makes more sense for it to be kind of like a build up, and then the mind attack from Shirako is like the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Sure, but I just don't even want to give him that. But that's me. I'm still fine with living with that as canon, though.
So I'll also take this moment to say that as for like some of the other things that are changed as a result of the new translation, a lot of the big things are like the characters that have a much more prolonged role in the actual TV series who essentially get cut short. So we were talking about 4 earlier.
Yeah.
4 is essentially killed after she helps Kamille get back into space. In the TV series, she survives that, and there is the entire Mount Kilimanjaro arc of the TV series that occurs where she reappears and she's brainwashed. And so none of that happens in the film trilogy.
Oh, okay.
She is instead, it is retconned so that she is shot when she is helping Kamille.
So that does straight up kill her in the movie.
She, instead of it being like a did she die, to then come back later, it's like, no, she died there.
Okay.
Also, Rosamia, she takes an early bow out in the translation. Basically after she has to eject from the God Plant mobile suit, early on there, she is also just like totally cut out of the story.
Sure. And I honestly,
so that's relative. That is there's 2 of your cyber new types that like, have a very prolonged role in the TV series and are just like cut short. It feels like Tomino, when like working out what the changes were going to be for this trilogy, really, whether he intends to or not, sends across this really clear message of like the cyber new types are not as important to this story. They're not a big part of the story that's trying to be told here.
Correct. And what I specifically I can see that with with Rosamia, but the thing I think that honestly one of the sequences I think that was important to keep that did get cut to was apparently the episode that they go to side one.
Yes,
is cut, and that I felt like was kind of a miss.
There are several episodes that are effectively
scene.
gutted.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way it is. I don't. So it's that realm where it's like I think they're good if you have watched the show once and you're like, instead of watching 50 episodes again, that you decide to watch this, and then maybe I don't know, switch to the last episode.
Also, if
you hate this ending, you know, like just something.
If you're a fan of the Psycho Gundam, if you think the Psycho Gundam is really cool, I have bad news for you about that film trilogy. Because with 4 dying when she does, and Rosamia being removed from the film when she leaves, Psycho Gundam is like pretty much non-existent.
Well, sorry for everyone else. Sorry for you Psycho Gundam fans out there.
I know you're out there.
Hey, it came back in G-Quux.
It's true. I clapped when I saw it.
Similarly destructive. You know what I will say? Watching this really makes me want to rewatch G-Quux again.
Yeah, dude.
Because I really want to see where all those hints and nods were in that whole, especially that whole sequence.
It's interesting because this like it makes sense because it's a direct sequel, but I was also feeling the thing of like there's so many callbacks to 0079 just within this series too. And yeah. G-Quux definitely feels like a double callback, as it were.
Yeah, right. So I actually want to rewatch that again. And it's short enough I could do that. But yeah, otherwise I think that's gonna do it.
Yeah.
There's so much more we could get to.
What are your final thoughts on Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam as a whole?
It's a great show. It just, there are so many other slight things that had frustrated me about it, you know, like that we talked about with the kids, with Katz, my lack of empathy for Rakua.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say that those don't overshadow the good, you know. So like this doesn't personally hit above for me. It doesn't hit above some of the other kind of favorites for me. Like it doesn't, to me, it's still, I still kind of like I still like Wing the most. I know people are going to hate me for this, but I still really like Seed.
Sure.
Just season 1. We're not talking Destiny or Freedom. Just Seed 1. So hard to say where it sits particularly, you know, but I like it a lot. I genuinely do. And I still think that all of its benefits outweigh its negatives, but I feel like there were just way more points versus a lot of other series that I watch where I was like, why the fuck are we doing this? And that I feel like I need to acknowledge that, you know?
Yeah. I think it's still,
I can't hide behind other people's likes for the show.
Yeah, of course.
To pretend I didn't feel that way, you know?
I think for me, it still sits very comfortably, like right behind the original 0079. I will say, for what it's worth, if you haven't watched our episode yet where we talked about Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, Go back and watch that, because I'm wondering if at this point Gundam Wing is kind of coming in as like number 3 now. Because if you hadn't seen that episode, go check it out. But like, I came away from it being like, wow, I think I like Gundam Wing even more than I remembered liking it. You know, I came away like really, really positive on it. And but this pulls ahead for me just a little bit. Maybe there will be a time in the future where I trade that and I decide that I like Wing more, but I still like Zeta a little bit. You know, call me an old man, call me nostalgic. But
No.
there's a lot about this that, like, when I think about Mobile Suit Gundam as a franchise, I'm thinking of like a lot of this, like the way it looks, the way it sounds, and the characters and the events, and a lot of it feels like kind of peak Gundam to me. Even if it's not like my favorite series, it's such a like high level of what I consider Gundam to be. But yeah, there you go.
No, I feel that for sure.
We did it.
All right, we did it.
It took some time, but we finally got around to it, and we finally did it. I'm glad that we made that happen. It's felt like for me personally, it's felt like kind of a big empty spot that we needed to address so that we could continue forward with other series. But yeah, I'm glad that we got the opportunity to do so, and we'll most certainly be back. We'll of course be continuing with our usual Warhammer 40K fare here on Heretic Hammer, as well as popping in to enjoy more Gundam stuff. We got plans, dear listener. We got plans. Plans are in store.
Plans within plans.
Gonna be plenty more Gundam talk happening on this pod. So if you like it, stick around. Definitely leave a comment as always. Correct me on stuff I got wrong. I love that, unironically.
Yeah.
And let us know who your favorite character was. And if it wasn't Belterchica Irma, explain why in the comments. Explain yourself. Justify it, because she has my heart. All right. So long, everybody.
See ya.
Goodbye.